Good evening and welcome to, I wanted to say SanAntonio Soccer Roundtable, but that's coming in a week or two maybe. But no, SAFC Fancast. Yeah, I got up to the wrong track.
It's the flag.
I was like,
it's the flag.
It's the flag. I got it up. We're getting ready to roll. But hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Tonight, hopefully, will be a quick one because Matt isn't here because, he's just the talker and the one that extends things out. And Royce, thank you to Royce for meeting me at Mad Peckers last night. Was fun not to experience the madhouse where Matt and the rest of the gang went to last night. Robert, dude, I went over there. What was it? McIntyre's on the north side. Not, if I'd had a beer or two, getting out of that place sober because I'm not from that area was eye-opening, let alone, if I'd have had a beer or two, which I would have had, I was like, yeah, no. Let me get back over to the west side where I live here. But joining me tonight, Jonathan Check. The beard's coming in strong, looking good with the off season. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Yeah, it's been about a week. It's been a relatively quiet week. Besides, Thanksgiving, I suppose you may not see as much player action and all that, but we'll talk about what we can. And to give our listeners a little peek behind the curtain, Harry said earlier today this will be a quote quick 10 to 15 minute show. We started right about 8, so hold us to that. We'll see how that goes.
Damn, now I'm on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Rafa, short 30-second intro. How are you?
Good. Just enjoyed my Thanksgiving in Del Rio. Then I was at a concert last night at the Aztec. So had some fun. Pretty good. Good turnout.
I guess I'm bearing the lead here. SanAntonio re-signs defensive duo Mitchell Tanner, which I think we talked about last week for it here on the last show. But the news this week, Shannon Gomez. But Nicholas Murray put together a article on the USL Championship website highlighting both signings returned. It said SA announced on Wednesday it had re-signed defenders Mitchell Tanner and Shannon Gomez, but it was really only Shannon Gomez that they did for that here. According to SAFC, I know terms were not disclosed, but it says for the 2025 season, where I think if memory serves me right, Mitch was a multi-year deal they announced when they did it. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't options, either player or club options for that here. Sporting director Marco Ferruzzi said, we're thrilled to re-sign Shannon for 2025. Shannon is a consistent performer, a leader on and off the field, and a true professional with the champion's mentality. We're pleased to have him as part of the SAFC family. This will be the 4th year for Shannon, although I won't lie, it kind of caught me off guard because he was coming off the bench a little bit more towards the end of the season. He's still a relatively young guy as far as age-wise. Next year, he'll be 28. So not hasn't hit that 30 age 30 mark yet. Jonathan, your thoughts being the professional media of a SAFC Fancast?
Yeah, kind of like you, I wasn't sure if Shannon would want to come back since he was coming off the bench so frequently, and that's the weird thing is he was a frequent substitute, I'd say, but very rarely, especially in the second half of the season, was he a starter. So I wouldn't blame him if he had wanted to move on. I think if Marcina had stayed, that may have complicated the issue for him. He may, especially since he's an international for Trinidad and Tobago, he may look somewhere else, say, listen, I need more playing time to make sure that I'm sharp for matches, obviously match fit and all that. But obviously with Alan Marcina not returning for next season, that takes out that factor. And then I also wonder how much of a factor Mitch Tanner signing on for another couple years might have been, because I know at the start of last season especially, we heard those two, first of all, they've played at the same club 7 of the last 8 seasons. Tainer and Gomez, I think 2020 was the one year that they didn't. Gomez, I believe, was still with Sacramento. Tainer, obviously, with SAFC, but they've spent at least part of every season for a long time together, except for that one year. So they've got a really good connection. And when there were a lot of new arrivals at SAFC last year, multiple times, probably at least a handful of times, you'd hear Mitch. The guys would say it was a really warm welcome. Guys like Mitch and Shannon really welcomed me. They were always mentioned together, it seemed like. So those two, we talk about the Marcina-Tainer connection, and I think Tainer and Shannon are also kind of two peas in a pod. They really go together a lot in their career. So I wonder how much of a factor that might have been, but hopefully we get to see a little more of Shannon in the rotation. And something we've noticed is we already have 3 sort of fullbacks or wingbacks, if you will, depends on how they're used. 2 of which are internationals, though, so you're going to be missing a couple of them, once every month or two. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, how the new coach compensates for that. But that's one area of the roster that's already looking, has a little bit of depth, and we kind of see how it's going to shake out.
Rafa, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that he got signed. We kind of thought, he was probably on his way out, just not getting the playing time this season like he has in the past, and they kind of diminished his role a bit. And I don't know if that had, because I know there were some games, he wasn't much of a factor, and I guess that was the concern. Is was he already kind of out the door because of that? But I guess Ferruzzi sees something that he wants to build upon with him. I guess with the connection with Mitch, they do have. I said those are the only 2 remaining as far as there were in the title or the championship team. I think maybe it was important for them. Hey, he's maybe a good locker room person, good leadership in there. So hey, let's keep him here, and maybe he's going to have a bigger role coming in this coming season, especially if they do. Maybe I have a feeling, like I said, they're going to end up playing like a 4-back, and maybe that's where he'll, we're pretty much where Trinidad uses him. I think that was probably a key factor, maybe kind of convincing him to stay, because he was probably going to end up getting the playing time. But I'm glad he's back. And like I said, he's one of the well-liked players SAFC we've had, and hopefully he gets, like I said, more opportunities, especially for him playing with, he wants to stay fit when he goes with Trinidad. So, I think we see him as an important piece going into this season.
I think for this upcoming week here, do we expect any signings? It is the first week in December, so we are in December. The league season did end, I want to say, over the weekend, the 30th, 28th, somewhere around there is when the league season officially ended. So we are technically officially in 2025. I know Tampa's already signed a new player from the Canadian Premier League for that here. I know early in the show, Jonathan was talking about, and even Royce and I kind of talked about it last night with SAFC, is how attractive is the position without knowing who the coach is. So Jonathan, I know we hound you. Hey, have you heard anything? And your answer is like no, like a true professional. But any feelings that you have as far as how soon SAFC is going to be, getting a coach or anything along those lines?
No real indications, I would say. I will confess, though, I was just thinking, okay, we're probably going to be, they're going to ask me about this because they usually do. And first of all, I was kind of hoping for maybe a comedic, so do you have any news on the coach? Actually, yes. Really? No. But you didn't tee me up for that. But no insights. But I will say, because I knew this was coming, I just looked up when SAFC signed Alan Marcina 5 years ago, December 9th, 2019. So we may not, talking about signings, obviously I think you're thinking players, but the coach is, I would argue, the biggest signing of the offseason, whoever it ends up being. And so we may not see it this week, but December 9th, if you're keeping track, that would be next Monday, I believe. So that should possibly, potentially, theoretically, maybe 50-50 be around the corner. So just keep an eye out. We don't really have any insights on when it's going to be, though, but presumably SAFC will announce it and maybe have a press conference or something coming up, or maybe not. I don't know.
When they announced Marcina, I don't know if you were there, but I know Mike and Jenny were, and a few other supporters. We got invited to Toyota Field in one of the suites, and Coach Marcina was there and did a little intro with it. Jolanda, no word on Hernandez yet. To me, like I said, I think it depends on the options that he has. And, let's be honest, I think we got to wait to see what kind of coach we get in as well. Rafa, your thoughts on either Hernandez or the coach, or a possible signing that you anticipate coming up, or that you would like to see?
I think the coach, you kind of need to do it now. I wonder also maybe if with MLS still going on, could that be a little bit of a factor? Maybe do they have their eye on somebody from MLS, and they're waiting for their season to be done? Because I think with the finals this weekend, I believe, I think LA.
It'd either be LA, the Galaxy, and the
Galaxy
Red Bulls for the first time.
Bulls, yeah. So I'm wondering, like I said, they had somebody waiting in the wings, like I said, so that was in the playoffs, maybe for like a staff member, and now they're going to kind of really hit the interviews now. But it, like Jonathan mentioned, Marcino's hired on December 9th. I think this has to be done, this coming week into next week, because with the players starting to get signed, that was the big mistake we made last year, is wait to the last minute, and basically we ended up signing the scraps, and we weren't able to get, possibly the usually those good players that usually come over here and so forth. So they got to be on it. As far as Hernandez, they may, like I said, they may be in negotiations right now. As far as what type of contract, maybe the contract states, is there's a team that does want them in Europe or MLS. What's the buyout clause?
Or Mexico.
There's a lot of or Mexico, yeah, same. With Liga MX, I mean, maybe that is being negotiated right now. Also, maybe like I said, coach too. I think any coach to bring in, I think they can work with Hernandez. I don't think that's an issue. But I think for him, he's kind of been there, done that as far as his play. He's really kind of elevated his play. Does he feel right now, say, hey, is my window of opportunity to move up to MLS or Liga MX or to Europe, is that window closing? And especially with the European track coming up, are they holding on waiting to see maybe kind of like a package deal, kind of what they did with Gallegos, maybe sign them and then end up selling them to at least get something back. So I think that might take a while. So I think everyone out there is going to have to be patient on that.
So we're supposed to be getting out of here, but this is a good question that I'm going to throw to Jonathan. Has the ownership group ever done an interview in the past 3 years? Curious as to what their vision is. So I'll preface this. The ownership group probably hasn't, but I know under Holt, they did. I think they spoke with the striker. I don't know if that's within that 3-year window or kind of right around there. I know Marco Ferruzzi, even though I'd say he's on a milk carton, he did have a brief meeting with the season ticket members, in the middle of Toyota Field, the fancy seats, as I call them. But to my knowledge, at least to the average season ticket member like myself, they have not shared what their vision is recently for that here. Jonathan, I do know you go to a little bit more of the media coverage for that here, so you might have a slightly different take. I know from your initial reaction, you're like, no, Harry, they don't say anything. So we'll tee it up for you. Jonathan, do you have any news on what the vision is for SAFC?
Yeah, so first of all, the matter of the owners, I mean, those are like the Spurs owners. So I mean, that's very high level, and also no disrespect to them, but I'm sure their focus is largely on the Spurs, and particularly now as they're pushing for a new arena. I would kind of
Project
question
Marvel.
how much, yeah, I would kind of question how much the owners are cognizant of what's going on with SAFC. Again, I get it. You've got a few different teams, and obviously the Spurs is the focus, but just throwing that out there. So, yeah, it would be very unlikely to talk to the owners. As far as executives, you're right. Holt did do, I guess, technically some of the interviews with us on like pregame shows and stuff with the striker. I don't know that we ever did like a sit down or anything like that, but I know he would also sometimes do sort of one-on-one broadcast interviews with guys like Glenn Davis over in Houston, which is a little weird, but I guess with a weekly soccer radio show, you have the bandwidth to kind of go around Texas a little bit and get some other views. And obviously, Tim Holt being a former league president for the USL is kind of one of the more recognizable names, bigger names. So it's understandable that you'd get him on occasionally. But like you said, Ferruzzi, we just haven't heard much from, and from what we understand, isn't the kind of person that wants to go out in the public. And I think if SAFC does some great things and things start looking up, then you say, okay, do we really need to hear from you? Not exactly, but we certainly felt last season that okay, things aren't going well. It would be nice to hear what the plan is. But all this, the TLDR of this is, don't really know what the plan is exactly because we don't hear that kind of stuff. That's just not leaking out or anything. So who knows?
Final thoughts, Rafa. We'll start with you. I know we're already 3 minutes out, so you got a minute or so. Final thoughts.
We'll I guess see what they do as far as if they do start signing players or already they have interviews and they're just doing the finalization because of the holiday. They're finally deciding who they'll make that decision, or they wait for somebody they have their eye on from MLS. We'll see. But I think that apparently you can see that a lot of the fans are very impatient and nervous about this because of what happened this past year. They want to see results, and like I said, and they want to be reassured that this team's going to be competitive, and we'll see what happens.
Jonathan?
My final thoughts, I mean, I don't know that there's much else I can say with SAFC, so I'm going to go almost complete 180 here. Obviously, those who watch the show, you'll know I'm a Man City fan. Has been a really weird last month, just seeing dropped points and exiting the League Cup and getting smashed by Spurs about a week ago. So it's been weird, but one very strange, somewhat positive. When I was watching the match against Liverpool earlier, I noticed, I think it was on the celebration for the second goal, they're running by the ad boards, and you see, or I saw, I kind of noticed something. I'm like, is that an ad for Blue Lock on the ad boards on like a major Premier League game? It was so weird because I don't know if people probably aren't aware of this, but that is like kind of a soccer related anime. And so I'm like, what on earth is that ad doing there? That is so random. They just started airing the second season like a month or two ago, so I kind of understand why it would be there. They're kind of trying to draw attention to it, but it was just so weird to see something like that, and especially because it's more of kind of a kids show, or at least kind of more geared toward teens. It's not that complex or anything. It's not exactly something that I think that many adults would necessarily find interesting or stimulating, but it's a soccer related anime and it was being promoted on the ad boards for Liverpool Man City. It was just so weird to see. So kind of neat though. Not how I expected to be reflecting on the game. Not something I thought I'd see.
So my final thoughts, I've got a couple of them here. One, I do want to highlight USL Tactics, John Morrissey. He has this great page, and it's pinned on his Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever social media platform that you're on. But he has a transfer tracker. If you can support him by subscribing with your email, it helps him out. And along those lines with Substrat for that here. But he has the latest moves. Like, I didn't know that Dom Dwyer was re-signed by Oakland. I thought, caught my eye. He has a great roster tracker for the teams, which you can go down through and see who they've lost and scored. And then also on here, as I expanded it too much, he's got kind of free agents if you wanted to go through and do some scouting for here. Now, he hasn't updated it, over the weekend news here, but like if you wanted to scout possible Memphis players, like Panos Armanakis, attacking mid, just tossing it out there.
Him and Jorge.
Hey, if we can get a coach along those lines here, or old friend Tulu, also a center back that I believe Jonathan mentioned that we transferred out, or we transferred in for a period of time. So that's, to me, like I said here, if you can subscribe, follow USL Tactics, probably the must follow for it, especially on a league level. And if you can try to help support his work. Number two, last night me and Royce talked about it, and Rafa and I have talked about it here, trying to be a lot more consistent. So we may be doing a little bit more of these short shows, 15, 20, 25 minutes. For that here, along those lines here, especially with news here for the off season for that here. My goal is to try to see if we can get people with more access. So maybe it's just Rafa talking about a move, or even Jonathan when the news breaks, if he wants to hop on and kind of give his points of something that may be breaking, where he could do like a 5-10 minute clip of just him. So do look forward to more content on the SAFC. Or the San Antonio Fancast aside. Also, high school soccer starts tomorrow, I believe, right, Rafa?
Yep, tomorrow.
Tryouts. So expect that to pick up in the next week or two on this channel. For that, I know the 50/50 podcast had a show this weekend or late last week.
We did one on Wednesday. Yeah, we did a little preview.
So it was after we did it here for that here. The 50/50 with Coach Kano and Rafa and the gang. They do more statewide, where we do more locally. I guess South Texas now, I guess, is what we're going to be kind of shooting for a little bit more for that here. I might see if I can reach out to some of my friends in the Valley to see if they can help out as well for that here. But do want to appreciate everybody. I didn't get it in under 15, but 25. Jonathan, is that okay? Because there were a couple of questions outside of that. Are you allowing that?
Oh, sure. Blame other people. Blame our viewers. Real nice, Harry.
Hey, you're the one that put me on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like I said, hope everybody has a wonderful time. Be safe as you prepare for Christmas. Be smart. Know your surroundings. And what's life without goals? We're out of here.